Nobody teaches you how to be an adult. You get pushed through childhood, through school, maybe through college, and then one day you wake up and you're supposed to have it all figured out. You're supposed to know how to pay your taxes, how to handle conflict, how to cook a meal that isn't ramen noodles, and how to deal with the crushing weight of existing in a world that seems to be falling apart around you. And the advice you usually get is always the same surface level stuff. Get a job, get a mortgage, start a 401k, climb the corporate ladder. Which sure, those things kind of matter, but they aren't actually what make you an adult. I turned 25 not too long ago, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about what it actually means to grow up. Because I don't think growing up is about the job you have or the money in your bank account. I think it's about something much deeper than that. Something that nobody really talks about. And that's what this video is going to be about. I want to talk about the stuff that actually matters when it comes to becoming a real, functioning, present adult in today's world. The stuff that changed my life and helped me to feel like I actually have a grip on things for the first time. Not the financial advice, not the career tips, not the productivity advice, but the real human parts of growing up that are going to set the foundation for the rest of your life. And I'm not going to pretend like I have it all figured out, because I don't. I'm still learning a lot of this as I go. A few years ago, I was eating fast food every day, drinking too much, barely talking to anyone, and spending most of my free time scrolling through content that made me feel worse about myself. I wasn't an adult. I was a guy with a remote job and a phone who was going through the motions. And I think that a lot of you might feel the same way right now, like you're technically an adult on paper or about to be one, but something fundamental is missing. If that's you, then this video is for you, because figuring out what was missing is what changed my entire life. If you give me until the end of this video, I think there's going to be something in here that makes you see things a little differently. The first thing that I want to talk about is emotional maturity, because it's probably the single most important thing that separates someone who is just older from someone who's actually grown up. When I was younger, my dad always told me that being mature as a guy was about being tough, not having any emotions, not letting things get to you, and just powering through everything like some sort of robot. And that's what the internet tells you too, right? Be stoic, don't show weakness, and don't let anyone see that you're struggling. The red pill guys, the hustle culture guys, they all push this idea that your emotions are a liability. And for a while, I bought into that completely. I hid everything. I didn't talk about my feelings with anyone. I didn't let people know when I was hurting, and I definitely didn't cry. I thought that's what being a man meant and what being an adult looked like. But it's not. Emotional maturity isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them and showing them in a controlled way. It's about being able to sit with the discomfort of feeling sad or angry or confused and not immediately running to something to numb it. It's about being able to tell someone that you're not comfortable with how they're treating you without exploding and punching them in the face. Hiding your anger causes you to explode at the wrong time. Hiding your worry makes you even more anxious instead of talking to someone who could help you feel better. And pretending you aren't sad doesn't make the sadness go away, it just delays it and makes it worse when it actually comes out. And this is the foundation that almost everything else about being an adult, in my opinion, builds off of. If you can't manage your own emotions, you're going to struggle with every other thing that I'm about to talk about in this video. Your relationships will suffer, your work will suffer, and your relationship with yourself will be a mess. So how do you actually build emotional maturity? Well, it starts by paying attention to yourself. When you feel something, try to name it. Not just I feel bad or I feel upset, but actually dig into it. Are you frustrated, disappointed, jealous, scared, overwhelmed? Why do you feel that way? What's the thing at the foundation of all of this that's causing that feeling? The more specific you can get with your own feelings, the better you can understand why you're feeling that way, and the less likely you are to take it out on the people around you or make decisions you'll regret. It sounds simple, but most people go through their entire lives just reacting without ever understanding what's driving those reactions. It really requires you to sit down and reflect on the things that are happening around you. We're so busy just going through the motions of life, constantly numbing ourselves with every bit of stimulation that we could possibly find, that nobody's able to actually digest what's happening around them anymore. Negative feelings are often just thrown on Twitter without any understanding of why the person who made the tweet was feeling that way in the first place. You gotta sit down and digest this stuff, and something that's helped me a lot with this is journaling. I know it sounds kind of lame, but writing down what you're feeling forces you to slow down and actually process it instead of just pushing it aside. You don't have to write like a novel or write in some sort of entertaining, poetic way like whoever discovers this journal upon your death is going to publish the next Meditations. You can write complete gibberish. It doesn't matter. It's just important to actually write this stuff down somewhere. And over time, as you reflect, you'll start to notice patterns in your emotions and behaviors that you never would have seen otherwise. These patterns are gold because once you can see them, you can start to change them. Now, this is a perfect transition, and I wasn't gonna do this, but I actually just released a habit tracking and journaling app for free for members of the community, and one of the features of this app that's been there since day one is a daily reflection journal. So as you're doing your normal things and writing down your tasks and your habits, you can go in and reflect on what the day looks like, and then go back and look at it later to see how your feelings have changed over time. It's a great feature, and the app is a lot of fun, and a lot of people are really enjoying it. So if you want to check it out, go to feelright.app or click the link in the description, and maybe you'll get some value out of it. But a big part of emotional maturity is also learning that you can be wrong. And I mean really learning and accepting it, and not just saying, oh yeah, I know, I'm not perfect, while secretly thinking that you're right about everything. Being able to admit when you're wrong, to actually change your mind when presented with new information, to be open to new perspectives, to apologize sincerely when you've messed up, and to genuinely mean it when you say you're sorry, those are some of the most important skills you can develop. I used to get defensive when someone called me out on something. My instinct was always to justify my behavior, to explain why I did what I did, and to shift the blame somewhere else. But that's not how adults should operate. Adults own their mistakes, learn from them, and try not to make the same ones again. And the people around you will respect you infinitely more for admitting that you were wrong than for doubling down on a bad take. My girlfriend and I have a much stronger relationship because I'm willing to accept when I did something wrong that upset her and make a change rather than going into a constant argument about how I wasn't actually wrong in the first place. I'm telling you, if that's a skill that you can develop, it'll strengthen pretty much all of your relationships and friendships across the board. And this leads into something that I think a lot of people are going to have mixed feelings about, which is taking personal responsibility for the situation that you're in. I know this is a touchy subject, and I want to be really careful here because I understand that not everyone is starting from the same place. Some people have had things stacked against them from the very beginning. Financial situations, family situations, health issues, systemic problems that make it incredibly difficult to get ahead. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like everyone can just work harder and everything will be fine because that's not how the world works, and honestly, I hate when people say that. It's dismissive and it ignores so much context about the actual conditions that people are living in. But here's the thing that I had to learn the hard way. Even if your situation is bad or genuinely terrible, the decision to try to change it still has to come from you. Nobody's gonna save you. I did not have a male role model growing up. I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own, and I was raised by a single mom. I had to learn how to be a man, how to be ambitious, how to build the life I wanted for myself. And for a long time, I used that lack of a male role model as an excuse. I used it as a reason to feel sorry for myself and to justify why I wasn't doing the things that I actually wanted to do. But the truth is, plenty of people have been dealt worse hands than me and have found a way to move forward. Not because it was easy for them, but because they decided to stop waiting for permission to start. The difference between being stuck and starting to get unstuck is action. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be a complete life overhaul on a Monday morning. It could be one small thing. Making your bed when you wake up, going for a 15-minute walk after work, cooking a meal at home instead of ordering delivery for the 4th time this week, sending one job application, having that difficult conversation that you've been putting off for months. But doing nothing, even when doing nothing feels safe and comfortable, is going to keep you exactly where you are right now for the foreseeable future. And when you have things stacked against you, that first step seems impossible. When you're depressed or broke or lonely, the idea of changing your life feels like trying to move a mountain with your bare hands. But the mountain doesn't move all at once, it moves one rock at a time, and the first rock is always the heaviest. I did not come up with that. I heard it online, but I really liked it, so I threw it in this video. But the thing that finally changed it for me was accepting that even though I can't control what happens around me, I can control what I do about it. I stopped waiting for things to happen to me and started making things happen, even if those things were tiny. And over time, those tiny things compounded into something that I could actually be proud of. I've always been extremely skinny my whole life, and I've been working out for 7 or 8 years now, and I'm finally starting to see a little bit of progress. I'm still skinny. I still am not the size that I used to want to be, but I've accepted my circumstances that my metabolism is just extremely fast, and it's going to be difficult and time consuming for me to gain the muscle that I want to gain. But accepting that these are my genetics and that there's nothing I can really do about it and that I have to work with what I was dealt has allowed me to accept my gym progress. And now I'm in better shape than I've ever been, and I love working out simply because it makes me feel good. So if you take that perspective and start to take action, it'll really make a big difference. Now, another part of personal responsibility is also learning to set boundaries with people and with yourself. This is something else that nobody ever taught me, and I had to figure it out on my own. Saying no to things that drain your energy, saying no to people who take advantage of you, saying no to commitments that you agreed to out of guilt instead of genuine desire. When I was younger, I said yes to everything because I was terrified of disappointing people or being seen as difficult. I would go to events that I didn't want to attend, agree to help with things that I didn't have time for, and stretch myself thin trying to be everything for everyone. And the result was that I had no energy left for the things that actually mattered to me. Learning to say no is one of the most adult things you can do. It means you understand your own limits and you respect them. And honestly, the people who matter in your life will respect you more for having boundaries than they will for being a pushover who shows up to everything half present and burnt out. It took me a long time to learn this, and I still struggle with it sometimes, but it's made a massive difference in how I manage my time and my mental health. And this naturally brings me to something that you're probably tired of hearing about at this point on the channel, but you need to take care of yourself physically too, and that's a big part of being an adult. I've talked about this a lot, so I won't go too deep here, but it needs to be said. We've never been more sedentary in our lives as humans. We sit at desks all day, we sit in our cars, we sit on the couch when we get home, and we go to bed. We're not designed to live like this. Your body needs to move, and if you aren't moving it, you're going to feel the consequences down the road when these issues are much harder to fix. You don't need to become a gym rat or run a marathon, but go on walks. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Spend some time outside in the sun. Do some push-ups in your room, not because you want to get jacked, but because it's kind of crazy that you're capable of doing those. Just move around more than you currently do, because I can almost guarantee you that you aren't moving enough. And pay attention to what you're putting into your body. I'm not going to lecture you about nutrition in this video because again, I've already done that too, but just start looking at the ingredients on stuff that you eat. The closer that something is to what exists in nature, the better it is for you for the most part. You'd be surprised at how much better you feel when you start being just a little more intentional about this stuff. And taking care of your body is how you protect yourself for the long term. You only get one of these things, and the decisions that you make now are going to determine how you feel at 40, 50, or 60. When you feel good physically, you have more energy and patience for the people in your life. You feel less irritable, more present, and more capable of being the type of person that others can rely on. Your body is the vehicle that carries you through everything else we're going to talk about, so treat it well. Because the next part of being an adult is maybe the most overlooked in self-improvement spaces, and that's learning to take care of other people. Being a good friend, a good family member, and a good partner, and actually showing up for the people around you. These things don't happen by accident. They take intentional effort, and they require a level of selflessness that our culture doesn't really encourage anymore. We live in a world that's entirely about individual optimization. Your personal brand, your grind, your self-improvement journey. Social media has turned us all into the protagonists of our own little shows, and everyone else is a side character. The self-help gurus have popularized the idea of monk mode, of locking yourself away and grinding until you've reached all your goals. But chasing success on an individual level is pointless if you don't have anyone to share it with. And at the end of the day, you won't be happy sitting alone in a nice apartment with a good salary if you've pushed everyone away getting there. Call your mom on a random Tuesday, not because it's her birthday or a holiday, but because she probably had a long day and wants to hear from you. Check on your friend who's been quiet lately. Sit with your partner when they've had a rough day and don't try to fix everything. Sometimes people don't need advice or solutions, they just need to know that someone is listening to them. Cook dinner for a friend. Remember the little details that people tell you and bring them up later. These things feel small, but they're the backbone of every meaningful relationship you will ever have. And when you start showing up for other people consistently, something shifts. They start showing up for you. That's how a real community is built, and that community becomes the thing that sustains you through the hardest parts of your life. I isolated myself way too much when I was a bit younger, and coming back to that sense of connection and community made everything else in my life easier to handle. You don't need thousands of people, just a few who understand who you are and what you're trying to do and are willing to walk alongside you while you figure it out. Something else I want to mention here is that being there for other people also means being honest with them when they need to hear something difficult. A lot of people think that being a good friend or family member means always agreeing and always being supportive. But that's not friendship, that's just people pleasing. Real friendship sometimes means looking someone in the eyes and telling them that they're making a mistake. It means having the courage to say that I think you're wrong about this or I'm worried about you, even when it might create tension. I had a friend in college who told me I was an idiot for not trying to pursue YouTube, which was something I was extremely passionate about. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be making videos today. When everyone else was telling me what I wanted to hear, this person told me what I needed to hear. And I respect them infinitely more for it. Now, something that naturally follows from caring about other people is thinking long-term about the kind of life that you're building for yourself and them. What type of person do you want to be in 10 to 20 years? What type of relationships do you want to have? What stories do you want to tell when you're old? What do you want to be known for? The decisions you make right now are shaping that future version of yourself. Every time you skip the gym, eat garbage, neglect the people you care about, avoid difficult conversations, or numb yourself with mindless content, you're casting a vote for the type of person you're becoming. And every time you push yourself to do something hard, or to show up for someone, or to take care of your body and learn something new, you're casting a vote in a different direction. Your habits are voting for the identity that you're building, whether you realize it or not. If you don't know who Bourdain was, he was a chef, a writer, and a TV host who traveled the world eating food and talking to people. But that description completely undersells what he actually did. What made Bourdain special was that he used food as a bridge to connect with people, to understand their histories, their struggles, and their joys. He sat down in street markets in Vietnam, and tiny restaurants in Tokyo, in people's living rooms in countries that most Americans couldn't even find on a map, and he just listened. He just asked questions. He tried things that he'd never encountered before. He admitted when he didn't understand something. He approached every experience with a genuine curiosity and humility that's rare in a world full of people who pretend to know everything. Bourdain once wrote that without experimentation and a willingness to ask questions and try new things, we become static and repetitive. And that idea has stuck with me since I read it. How many of us are trapped in the exact same routine, consuming the same content, eating the same food, talking to the same people, thinking the same thoughts day after day? We've gotten so comfortable in our little bubbles, especially on the internet, that we've forgotten what it feels like to encounter something genuinely new. And that comfort is slowly suffocating us. What I love about watching Bourdain is that he didn't approach the world like a tourist. He approached it like a student who knew he'd never graduate. He said once that the more places he saw, the bigger he realized the world was, and the more he understood how little he actually knew. That humility and that willingness to stay small and keep learning is something that a lot of people lose as they get older. My dad genuinely believes that pretty much every country in the world is dangerous to travel to. He believes this because he's been so in his own bubble in the United States that he has no idea how the world actually works. And that's a very common mentality, especially for a lot of Americans. Now, you don't need a passport or a bunch of money or a plane ticket to be curious about the world like Anthony Bourdain. You can start right where you are. Read a book about a subject you know nothing about and maybe that you even think you're not interested in. If you need some recommendations, I have a bookshop link in the description below, which should give you a bunch of good ideas. Try a food you've never had. Go to a part of your city that you've never explored and just walk around. Talk to someone whose life looks completely different from yours. Watch a documentary about something you'd never think to look at. Go to a farmer's market, a local event, a bookstore, try yoga, visit a coffee shop you've never been to, and just sit there and watch people for a while. What Bourdain understood, and what I'm slowly starting to understand from watching his stuff, is that curiosity is the antidote to the stagnation that so many of us feel. When the world feels repetitive and dull, when every day blends into the next, it's usually because you've stopped being curious. You stopped asking questions. You've stopped seeking out things that are unfamiliar. You've built a perfectly comfortable routine that requires nothing from you mentally or emotionally, and you're slowly dying inside because of it. That sounds dramatic, but I think it's true for a lot of people. So, what's next? How do you become that adult you've always wanted to be? Sorry to break it to you, but no one's gonna give you a manual for this. Trust me, I looked. But the good news is, you don't need one. You just need to start with one thing from this video. Pick something and do it right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today. Because the person you are today is the foundation for the person you're gonna become, and every day you wait is a day that foundation stays exactly where it is. And if you need help building new habits to change that foundation, again, check out my habit tracking app at feelright.app. It really is an extremely helpful place, and to be honest, it's the only reason that I've been taking my vitamins every single day. Because if I don't write it down and don't gamify it through the app, I have no interest in remembering to take my vitamins. You can find a link in the description. But anyways, do you feel like an adult? What made you actually feel like you grew up? Consider supporting by buying me a coffee or becoming a monthly member on the Buy Me a Coffee page linked in the description. Or just check out the app, that supports me too. Thank you for spending your time with me today, and we will talk again soon.